Hello, welcome back to our Arturia Prophet V tutorial series, and today we're talking about polyphony. Now there are two places on the Prophet V interface where we deal with polyphony, and it's a little bit of it's a bit ugly, but it's a throwback to the original synthesizer design. As things stand right now, we've got a polyphonic instrument. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes. I'm able to generate 5 different tones at the same time because we have 5 voices available to us, and that's set with this polyphony control down here. We can go up to 32 if we want. If I engage unison mode and play the same chord, well, 5 notes, 2, 3, 4, 5, you only heard 1 note. What's happening in unison mode is that the synthesizer is siphoning, corralling all of its voices into a single note. It's in unison, all of the notes are in unison. And what we get is a much thicker sound. If I turn unison off for a moment and we have a look at span, you can see the harmonic range of the sawtooth wave. Now if I engage unison mode, there's all sorts of stuff going on. There's a natural detune. It's basically 5 sawtooth oscillators all doing the same thing at the same time. If I had multiple oscillators, if I had both oscillators A and B working at the same time, in fact, let's do it. Let's turn oscillator B up and turn it into a triangle. So that's the combination of sawtooth and triangle. It's not very interesting. There you go. So we've got a triangle and a square wave down here with a 70% pulse width, a sawtooth up here. Now when I engage unison mode, it's going to do that 5 times. And it's pretty goddamn awesome. The unison mode is fantastic. It turns it into a monophonic synthesizer. Now I can't play chords, but I do get an incredibly rich sound because there's a very slight natural detune. It's called unison detune for a reason. When we're in unison mode, we can accentuate that natural unison detune with the voice detune knob, and there's some dark magic going on behind this knob because no matter what you do to it, it always seems to sound fantastic. So thick. Very nice indeed. Let's turn unison off. So we're back to polyphonic again. The other way that we can approach polyphony is with this little section down here, play mode. At the moment, we're in reset mode, which means that we have full polyphony, 5 notes, and in reset mode, it'll always play the last note played, but it'll favour old notes over new notes. There's a cunning way I can show you this. I'm going to make the Prophet generate sine waves, which it doesn't really like doing, but it can. If I start off with the sawtooth wave and pull the filter cut off back and throw in high frequencies away, well, guess what happens if we throw enough high frequencies away? We're only left with 1 harmonic. What's 1 harmonic? Yes, that's right, it's a sine wave. It's admittedly very quiet, and we can't turn it up too much because we just bring the harmonics back. But it is a sine wave. Now I know you can only just about hear it, but it works for the purpose of the demonstration. Because what I'm going to do is go down to 3-note polyphony, and now we can see each individual note of the keyboard appear. So when I play a 4th note, the A just got thrown away, which was the third note I pressed down. When I play a new, I'm basically travelling up the keyboard here. I'm going to play an F, and there's the D just disappeared. I'll play a high A, there's the F just disappeared, and every time I play a new note going up, the previous note gets disappeared. Now it's got nothing to do with the direction in which I'm travelling. It's got to do with the number of notes that are pressed. So I'm now going to play a low, what shall I do? I'll play a low B, which is going to be, there you go. And it's now thrown the previous youngest note away, which was, well, I don't know what it was probably the C all the way up there. So every time I play a new note, that note always gets played, and the previously last played note gets binned, and the C3 that I played right down at the beginning, which is this note here, survived the entire time. If I switch to circular mode, the opposite will be true. Now it will favour young notes. There's my C, and then I think I played one of them, and probably one of them, and maybe one of them, and now it's thrown the low C away. And every time I play a new note, it throws the previously oldest note away. And again, it's got nothing to do with where in the frequency range I'm playing the note. If I play a G3, there, it's now thrown away everything else except the last two notes that were played, which were what's that, G and B, way up above. So reset and circular are the two polyphonic modes of this synthesizer. Let's get back to a reasonable tone, bring all our harmonics back in. In low mode, we're monophonic now, and it will favour the lowest note that I'm currently holding down. I never know whether that's C2 or C3, does it really matter? It's the middle C on my keyboard. If I now play a C4, we don't hear anything. If I let go of the C3, there's the C4. If I now play the C3, that takes precedence. That's a lower note, it takes precedence. Here's a G in the middle, don't hear it. Let the low C go, and now we hear the G. The G is lower than the C that I've still currently got held down. It's a shame that the keyboard is so bright. Maybe you can just see the... Thanks, phone. Maybe you can just see the two keys that I'm holding down. I'm spamming that F up there. We're not hearing it until I take the other two notes away, and then we hear it. Pretty straightforward stuff. High is going to be exactly the opposite. So the high note takes precedence. I'm now going to spam the low note. You'll never hear it. If we switch to last, however, the last played note always takes precedence. So, low C, high C, let the high C go, and we go back to the low C, play the high C again, there it is, let the low C go, play the low C. So I'm doing a kind of seesaw thing where I'm holding both keys down each time, and it always toggles high and low. Unison mode works for all monophonic modes. So if I turn this button on, we're still going to get exactly the same monophonic behaviour. Low note, high note, low note, high note. I'm holding both notes down each time. So the behaviour is identical, but now we're using all three voices for each one of those notes rather than just a single voice. So your unison option is still really important. It might just be a CPU thing if you don't want to have unison on all the time if you're in monophonic mode, because it is, doing a lot more work. Every single note is using all of the voices available to it at all times. But if that's not a problem for you, then there's not much reason to not use unison all the time, because it just sounds so goddamn amazing. If you really want to show your CPU who's boss, or maybe the other way around, engage 32 note polyphony, and now we're still in unison mode here. I'm just going to turn the volume down because all of those sawtooth waves are all going to get combined, and it's going to be loud. So I'll just turn the volume down. be absolutely honest with you, it's not that much better than it was when we were in 5-voice polyphony. There's only so much your ear can actually identify, you know, too much of a good thing. It's not necessarily bad, it's not doing any harm to the sound, but we're not deriving very much benefit from it. But it is cool. And that's polyphony covered. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing, and hope to see you next time. Thanks a lot.